Dear friends, my Wizo Israel Chaverot and Chaverot around the world, Shalom to you all. On this special day for Wizo at the annual meeting of representatives, we hope that you would all be with us here in Israel to celebrate in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. But even if we have to face the camera again and communicate through the airwaves, I'm honored to stand in front of this distinguished forum that connects 5 continents and 38 states and 60 time zones to present my summary of Wizo Israel in 2023. It is impossible to begin without saying that for us in Israel, last year was divided into 2 different parts, before and after October 7th. Today, as we review our activities and measure the pulse and vitality of our beloved Wizo movement, Israel is still at war on so many fronts. The war in Gaza, the war in the north, and a different kind of war in the rest of the world. Even now, our soldiers are fighting in Gaza. Our citizens live in a state of emergency. Too many have been forced to evacuate their towns and communities. Global anti-Semitism is rampant and the hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Every day, there is a knock on Israeli family doors to inform them of terrible news, the deep shock of the horror that engulfs Israeli society since that Black Shabbat will stay with us for generations and remind us, our children and grandchildren, that in our neighborhood, every terrible scenario, even the most unthinkable, can happen. The war also demonstrated the importance of national unity and mutual faith. It reminded us of our precious partnership with friends around the world and here in Israel. This helped us to emerge from every military conflict with the upper hand. Let me share an example of this special partnership here in Israel. A few days ago, we initiated a very emotional event in Wizo Daliat El Carmel, a branch operated by our Druze sisters, a patriotic and active branch that leads and takes responsibility. Present were 6 Druze families whose sons, some of them high-ranking officers, had been killed in the war. Our strong relationship with the Druze people is an alliance of blood, uplifting, and inspirational. It demonstrates that even in Israel, people of different faith can write their stories together and create a shared set of values that rises above tradition and history. For us, as a Zionist women's organization, our activities in the Druze communities are a dream come true. It is the model society that Herzl dreamed of. This highly regarded event, which we held for the Druze community and our friends from Daliat El Carmel, who chose Wizo as a platform for their social activism, is a prime example. Wizo Israel will continue to develop its activities and cooperation in every community that loves the state, shares its values, and seeks its best interests. Our working year was, as always, overflowing with activities around the calendar and around the clock. The women of Wizo Israel, our dear volunteers in the branches and in the office, the head office, proved once again that they are leading entrepreneurs, hardworking, and always ready to initiate and execute an endless list of programs. In our nationwide chain of bigudiot, second-hand clothing stores, after years of increase in income and activities, we maintained an income of 18 million shekels, despite the war. In total, more than 20 million shekels were raised by the Israeli Federation. This makes the Wizo Israel Federation a sound, essential economic asset to Wizo. The year 2023 will be remembered by Wizo Israel as a year of war, preceded by many months of thriving and creativity. Let's look at some of the year's highlights. In January, we were delighted to host you in our Netanya branch for an uplifting evening. In the same month, we conducted a training session for new chairpersons, 10 leaders from the field and another potential volunteers attended a 10-meeting course to equip them for executive posts in Wizo. Wizo Israel is commissioning the next generation of leaders. In February, we had a special meeting in the Tefen Club in which 150 women leaders in Israel's economy were fully briefed on the multifaceted activities of Wizo and its crucial role in Israeli society. We are deepening our ties and cooperation with leading professional women in Israel. In March, we introduced a unique course to train volunteer coordinators as part of our efforts to recruit and retain volunteers in our branches. We also celebrated International Women's Day with thousands of events in Wizo branches and conducted a nationwide effort to connect thousands of women in Israel. Part of my vision is that Wizo will reach and touch the lives of every woman in Israel. There has already been an increase in the number of girls and women who benefited from Wizo services last year. 20,000 women, youth and children, not including activities war-related, benefited from our support compared to 13,000 in the previous year. April brought us the Earth Day activities in which we highlighted our Bigudiot chain's contribution to sustainable living and protecting the environment through recycled clothing, including many events in each of our stores. In May, we held a series of Women Talk Bereavement in branches nationwide to mark Memorial Day, where mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives share stories of losing loved ones. The Wizo Israel Conference was also held in May, and in this annual festive gathering elections were held for the incoming Wizo Israel executive. Wizo Israel Chaverot elected our board management and expressed confidence in me as a choice for a second term as chairperson of the Israeli Federation. In June, the project Growth Space for Haredi Girls, which is especially dear to me, came to a successful close. The project held at the Wizo Jerusalem branch, thanks to the generosity of the Wall Foundation, has brought new skills, both professional and personal, to Haredi girls. For the first time, Wizo has sowed the seeds of interfaith and mutual respect in a large and important sector of Israeli society, the Haredi sector. In July, we held a Vintage Day in the Bigudiot, styling and fashion for special occasions. The promotion and marketing of the Bigudiot demands much expertise and effort. We all know that the bottom line cannot grow on its own. In August, in the presence of 200 guests, we successfully reopened the Wizo branch in Givatayim as part of our efforts to reestablish our presence in central cities. In September, in a new initiative, we held a training day for all our branches' secretaries, focusing on the professionalism and the Wizo values by which we operate. We also relaunched our social business cooperation with the major high-tech company, Matrix. Over 100 of their employees came to volunteer in Wizo branches. By creating ties between Wizo Israel and major national companies, I foresee new growth and influence to benefit our movement. October came as a terrible shock. The events of that awful Black Shabbat resulted in the deployment of countless initiatives and projects to galvanize the national effort. We mobilized our army of Wizo, Israel Chaverot, to support the evacuees, especially the children and wives of soldiers drafted into the war. We visited wounded soldiers and befriended lone soldiers. We mobilized for donation of clothes, toys, and essential items and played an integral role in the Israeli war effort in every and any way. Our Chaverot work around the clock to cook and bake, to organize and distribute care packages for the refugees from the south and all those affected by the war. We supported our own Chaverot whose loved ones were killed. Unfortunately, 7 of our dear Wizo Israel sisters are mourning children, grandchildren, and nephews who were killed and fell in this war. In November, alongside our war effort activities, we opened a new group for women exiting the cycle of violence in Rishon LeZion. It is our 9th group in cooperation with the Division of the Status of Women. The groups take place in our branches by our volunteers, escorting and guiding families towards a new and better life away from the cycle of violence. It is a unique program that has become one of our most outstanding missions. In December, we held a fair to promote women's small businesses. This trial, fair in cooperation with the city of Modi'in, enables creative and artistic women to exhibit their crafts to the public. Due to its success and high demand, we will continue to hold these fairs in other cities in Israel. For the countless activities in the branches, in the bigudiyot, and in general, this never-ending list of projects, plans, and activities that fill our Wizo Israel calendar, I must pay thanks. Firstly, to my dear sisters in the Wizo Israel Executive, to the chairpersons of the branches, the selfless volunteers in all our branches and bigudiyot, to the director of Wizo Israel activities, Michal Danin Hollander, and the dedicated workers of the organization. To the World Wizo Executive, our chairperson, Anita Friedman, our CEO, Mira Mines, and all the divisions of World Wizo that cooperate with us. I pay special thanks to Esther Moore, outgoing president of World Wizo, for her many years of warm cooperation. Esther, you went above and beyond for us, always there when needed, with encouragement and good advice. Thank you for everything, dear Esther. And I'm warmly welcome Anat Vaido, our incoming World Wizo president. Good luck, Anat. I started with the war, and I will end with the war, because it consumes our lives right now. Every war puts us to the test, and this war, the longest and most cruel since the War of Independence, puts many challenges ahead of us. But at the end of the day, despite all criticism of the army, intelligence services, and the government in Israel, we rediscover that the rock of the state of Israel is the strength and quality of its people, who for thousands of years have had to overcome enemies and danger. The older generation from whose experience we learn remains strong, arm in arm with our younger generation. Our illustrious youth, they are our pride, so resilient, clever, and able. This is no surprise. They are the result of our endeavors. We raise them to be the product of a strong and liberal society that cares for individuals and gives up on no one. With our sisters and brothers from around the world, who are always by our side to share the burden, we rise to every challenge. And even when worry consumes us, there is still so much space for volunteering. This is what we all do together. Your support and the aid of all kinds that comes from every warm Jewish heart in Germany, Holland, Austria, from Australia to the USA and everywhere in between, strengthens us and our resolve to do more for Israeli society. This reinforcement is felt on the home front and on the army front lines facing the enemy. And we, women of Wizo, Israel, feel it too. For this, dear friends, from my heart I say, thank you, Toda. More than ever, the bond between us is unbreakable. We all suffer from the same hatred that kidnap and rape our daughters in the Re'im, that burns a synagogue in Brussels, that speaks in diplomatic voices under the cover of humanitarianism and calls for a ceasefire, that will tie our hands from defending ourselves. It is the same multi-tentacle enemy that normalized terror against Jews. We must remember always that we are all one, a united people. And more than ever, we must face the dangers as one. Today, more than ever before, I am proud to be Jewish and Zionist, and I know that you feel that way too. In the year 2024, we in Wizo Israel look forward with hope for a year of national and Wizo strength. We are prepared for our multi-branch activities and ready to tackle the rising special needs according to circumstances. My dear friends, here in Israel, where rounds of fighting come and go, as naturally as the season turns, we dream of quiet and steady days, of a time when the heroes rest and the boys return and the rain comes on time and the wheat grows again. 2,500 years ago, the prophet Zechariah asked, "For who despises a small day?" And his voice speaks to us at the beginning of 2024, when we're missing our usual and routine activities, the status of women, enrichment classes for children, training for women and girls, and so much more. There is no doubt that the war will end and the blessed routine will return, and we will return to doing what matters and seeing it as our sacred mission. I want to leave you with the words from a song that is played a lot here in Israel in times of war. את הגשם תן רק בעיתו, ובאביב פזר לנו פרחים, ותן שיחזור שוב לביתו. יותר מזה אנחנו לא צריכים. Let the rain drop when it's meant to be, and the spring scatter flowers for us, a sight to see. Just let him return. It's all we want. Nothing more. That's all we need. Wishing us all peace and security and a good Wizo year. We will definitely dance again. Am Israel Chai.